Chapter 421, Like Father, Like Son. Guilt flashed in Tang Yunda's eyes. He then nodded and said, I know that you and your mother have suffered quite a lot during those years. Even though our situation is getting better each passing day, she doesn't slow down for fear that those bitter days will yet come again if she doesn't save some money. Tang Xiu nodded and suddenly said, Dad, have you considered about the matter we talked about before? What are you going to do now? I've been thinking about several projects recently, but I haven't decided yet. Tang Yunda said. What projects? One of them is a hotel business. With Shuangqing province's economic level getting higher and the more convenient transportation means to other provinces in China, I realized that I can do a hotel business. Only, it would be difficult to start in a large scale. Another one is real estate business. Although there are many real estate developers in the country, the housing problem is still the top priority given the increasing population. Additionally, there's also the goods distribution business, where online shopping is very prosperous nowadays. Retail business is also quite significant. After pondering for a while, Tang Xiu suddenly said, Dad, I think I'll also set up a hotel business. But I think investing large-scale straightaway in this business field in Shuangqing province is not necessarily good. You might as well take a closer look at some cities with highly developed tourism aspect, such as coastal cities. Tang Yunda's eyes lit up as he patted his thigh and said, You're right, Sonny. With the improving standard of life and the booming tourism industry, establishing hotels near scenic areas is certainly good. Anyhow, what about the other two options? What do you think? I think you can forget about going into real estate business. Tang Xiu said, there are many construction companies all over the country nowadays, and quite formidable ones as well, whether it is in a big city or some remote area. Competing with them will not be easy. The retail industry, however, is still feasible. But I need to know how big you want it to be. I can come up with 2 billion. Tang Yunda said. Pondering for a while, Tang Xiu then let out a smile and said, Let's set up a hotel business first, and then invest in the retail business. There are only a few large retail companies in the country. So, if you can set up a large retail company, and we can open all sort of logistic channels, we can perhaps get huge profits from it. What do you think about cooperating with others? Tang Yunda asked. With whom? Tang Xiu asked back. With a large logistic company, like injecting some funds and becoming shareholders. Tang Yunda said. After thinking for a while, Tang Xiu then shook his head and said, It's not feasible in my opinion. The large logistic companies must already have thorough logistic channels, and are also well known. However big our funds are, it won't be easy to compete against them. I think it may be best if we take over a small logistics company, and then invest large funds to start expanding broader logistics channels, spreading the distribution network to every part of the country, thus making our own complete channel network. On the one hand, we can ensure the security of the logistic route, and on the other hand, we can also guarantee the distribution speed. By the way, I've also bought several airplanes, so if you really want to do logistic business, I can give them to you after the reconstruction in Nine Dragons Island has been completed. Really? Tang Yunda's eyes lit up and asked in astonishment. Surely you don't think I'm joking? Tang Xiu said with a smile. Your ideas are great. Tang Xiu praised, I've learned about the situation of a few large logistics companies in the country. Though they also have cargo planes, they are few in number. If anything, as long as you provide the funds and go all out to invest them, any business will do, I think. Tang Xiu said, though I still have some money in hand, they have already been allocated, so I can only help you in this. I know you have the funds, son. But how can I use your money to fund my own business? Tang Yunda laughed, anyhow, can you get me a batch of God's nectar? You can contact Kong Xia for that. She will refuse if it's anyone else but you. Tang Xiu said, well, Dad, I have some things to handle, so I can't accompany you anymore. Didn't you just come back? Tang Yunda confused, you're leaving already? Where are you going now? It's the father of my classmate. Tang Shou smiled and said, he said he has something to discuss with me, so I'm going to see him. Are you coming back to dinner? Tang Yunda asked with a smile. I can't. I have an appointment tonight. Tang Shou shook his head and said, Yuan Zhengxian invited me to dinner, so I don't have the time tonight. Yuan Zhengxian? Tang Yunda slightly blanked and looked surprised, as he asked, Sonny, your classmate's father is Yuan Zhengxian, the Yuan Group's boss? Yeah. Do you know him? Tang Shou nodded. I've met him a few times. Tang Yunda nodded and said, like me, he used to be in the army as well. I've also heard about this. Even his current business has deep ties with the military. Tang Shou said, nonetheless, he told me a few months ago that he was seeking an opportunity to do other businesses. But I don't know whether the matter he's looking me for is related to this issue, though. Fine, off you go then. Tang Yunda nodded. Tang Shou quickly left Southgate Town without saying hello to his mother since she was still asleep. After driving his Land Rover SUV to the Yuan family's villa, Yuan Zhengxian and Zhao Jing were very enthusiastic as they personally welcomed Tang Shou to the study room. Inside, Yuan Zhengxian enthusiastically said, Tang Shou, your magnificent Tang Corp is becoming more and more prosperous and thriving. Well, I don't know much about the company's management, though. Tang Shou modestly said, it's Kong Xia who usually takes care of it since my main task is studying. To have a senior general manager such as Kong Xia working for you is really great luck, Tang Shou. Yuan Zhengxian said, I wouldn't have any more headaches if I were to have someone with such competencies. Uncle Yuan, is there something you want to discuss with me? You know that I've started to think about transforming my business some time ago. Thus, I've withdrawn quite a lot of funds recently. Yuan Zhengxian nodded and said, I also made some investment in the new city project thanks to my relationship with you. However, I still have quite a lot of funds in hand, so I want to ask you whether there's any business worth investing in? Uncle Yuan, for you to have set up your business career from scratch, you're definitely a capable person. Yet, you're asking me about investment issues. It's kind of making me awkward. Tang Shou couldn't help laughing and said, speaking about it, you're not the first one to ask me about investing today. There was another? Who? Yuan Zhengxian was astonished. My father. Tang Shou smiled. Perplexed, Yuan Zhengxian said, your father? As far as I know, you seem to have been brought up by your mother. I haven't heard about. I've indeed grown up with my mother due to special reasons. Tang Shou said, but lately, my father has come back and wants to do some businesses. Anyways, when I was chatting with him about investments, I mentioned you and he said that he has met you a few times. Who's your father? Yuan Zhengxian was surprised. Tang Yunda. Tang Shou said. Tang Yunda? The name gave a familiar vibe to Yuan Zhengxian, yet he couldn't remember where he had heard it. When he looked at Tang Shou's face, realization dawned on him. Tang Shou's face reminded him of someone. Due to remembering it, he got up all of a sudden and asked incredulously, your father is Tang Yunda? The once soldier king in the army? And one of the Tangs in Beijing? Yes. Tang Shou laughed. Yuan Jingshuan's lips twitched a few times. Looking emotionally excited, he murmured, Brother Tang is still alive? I met him 20 years ago, and his heroic spirit was unforgettable to me. Tang Shou, where's your father now? Can I meet him to drink a couple glasses of wine? He's in Southgate Town, Uncle Yuan. Tang Shou said with a smile, you can go there directly if you want to see him. I'll visit him tonight. Yuan Zhengxian nodded repeatedly and said, you might not be aware of it, Tang Shou. But your father was once the pride of all the servicemen. He had been someone countless soldiers looked up to. Had it not been because of what happened that year, I dare say he would have become a general and someone with great authority in the army. Tang Xiu only let out a faint smile and didn't reply. This is really unexpected. Yuan Zhangxian sighed again. No, I never expected it. To think that you're actually his son. No wonder you possess such capabilities despite your young age. A father tiger indeed won't beget a dog's son. Like father, like son. Well, let's not talk about this anymore, Uncle Yuan. Tang Xiu waved his hand and said, if your purpose to ask me over this time was merely for asking about investment issues, I'm afraid I can't be of any help to you. You definitely can. A glint flashed in Yuan Jingshuan's eyes as he said, I trust you can help me in this. How come? Tang Xiu was stunned. Didn't you just say it? That your father also wants to do business? Yuan Zhangxian said with a smile, I want to set up some business, so if the two of us cooperate. Whether you two will eventually cooperate or not, I won't interfere with that. If anything, you can talk with him directly, but don't involve me in it. Tang Xiu smiled and said, by the way, Uncle Yuan. Yuan Chuling wants to open a fitness center in Shanghai. He has told you about it, I presume? As his father, are you going to support him? He got support from you, so how can I not? Yuan Zhangxian laughed and said, Little Ling has told me about everything you two have discussed. So I've also decided to give him 10 million as a starting kick. Even if he loses all the money, I don't care. I'll still support him as long as he gets to learn some skills from it. That's just like Uncle Yuan has just said, a tiger father won't beget a dog son. Tang Xiu gave him a thumbs up and praised, like father, like son. Worry not, Uncle Yuan. I'll help you look after him and the fitness center. As long as he doesn't deliberately create trouble, I'm sure there won't be any problems. That would be great. Yuan Zhangxian nodded in satisfaction. It was actually these words that Yuan Zhangxian had been waiting from Tang Xiu. Chapter 422, The Homeless Children. Leaving the Yuan family's villa, Tang Xiu then drove his car to the magnificent Tang Corp's HQ. On the way there, he produced a wry smile after Banzhou called him. The man and his gang were waiting for him in Shanghai for a few days. After seeing him so busy, they immediately went back to Star City. Only today did Banzhou contact him again. New Garden. It was formerly one of the tourist attractions on Star City's outskirts, though it was now deserted. After Tang Xiu drove there, he saw Banzhou sitting while smoking on the stone block next to the grassy park entrance. You've come, boss. Seeing Tang Xiu arriving, Banzhou immediately trotted toward him. You told me on the phone that you settled the homeless children here, right? Tang Xiu asked. Yeah. Although this place is a little dilapidated, some of the houses are still intact. Banzhou said, Dingzi and I bought daily necessities and hired several aunts to take care of the children, so it turned out pretty good. Take me to see them. Tang Xiu said. 10 minutes later, Banzhou and Tang Xiu came to a shabby house. The first thing that came to Tang Xiu's sight were dozens of 3 to 5-year-olds groups, merrily gathering around several middle-aged women. The oldest ones among them looked 8 or 9 years old, whereas the youngest was a baby held by a middle-aged woman. Boss, there are a total 45 children. All of them are homeless children. They didn't have enough food and warm clothes to wear. They also didn't have a fixed place to stay. We've bought these children food and new clothes, and also promised to provide them a place to stay and find someone who would be willing to adopt them so that they would have a home in the future. Hence, they come here with us. Banzhou, who once looked thuggish, now looked like a changed man at this moment. A complicated look could be seen in his eyes, and his words and manners were especially serious. You did a good job, Banzhou. Tang Xiu patted his shoulder. Banzhou forced a bitter smile and said, Boss, the number of homeless children we've found is actually far more than these. Many of them, however, have disabilities. But like boss has told me before, you wanted us to find healthy children, so we sent them to some orphanages, donating some money as well. You are more mature than before, Banzhou. Tang Shou said. After seeing so many poor children, I suddenly felt that the task you gave me is very honorable, boss. It also touched my heart, with a realization that I can do more and better than living aimlessly as before. Banzhou said. You're right. What I tasked you to do is an endeavor and a cause for you. Tang Shou nodded and said, I'll send some people over tonight to take these children, while you continue to look for other homeless children. You don't have to worry about anything, I'll give you 5 million later. Immediately contact me if you come across any trouble. Where are you going to take them, boss? Banzhou asked hesitantly. You don't need to know where I'll take them. Tang Shou said lightly, but shortly put, you can rest assured that I'll treat them kindly and give them a different future. Shall I take you to see the children, boss? Banzhou nodded. All right. Tang Shou nodded. Banzhou then came before the children, clapped and shouted, Children, all of you follow me like I asked you, and immediately stand in line. Several aunties, you can go to rest first. I'll call you again if there's anything. The middle-aged women hesitated before nodding, handing over the baby to Dingxi, who came over and then left silently. Tang Shou watched the children scurrying around noisily as they then quickly stood in 3 rows. Curiosity was painted on their faces as they looked at him curiously. Tang Shou then stepped forward and said in a deep voice, All of you, remember my face. I'm your boss from now on. From now onwards, I'll provide the food you will eat, the clothes you will wear, and the houses you'll be staying. You will also be able to study and learn. Remember, you had no home before, so I'll give you homes in the future. A home that can make you not worry about food and clothing, and a home that you can grow old without worries and troubles. All the 45 children quietly watched Tang Shou. No one spoke or moved heedlessly. They seemed to understand Tang Shou's words, yet didn't comprehend it. However, they understood one thing, Tang Shou was willing to adopt them and give them a home. After saying that, Tang Shou then took out his mobile and dialed Kong Xia's number, prepare a bus and send it to the new garden. I'll text you the specific address in a while. All right. Kong Xia replied quickly. Tang Shou ended the phone call and made a hand signal to Banzhou and Dingxi. As the 2 men came toward him, Tang Shou then said, Later on, you 2 will be looking for other homeless children, after which, send them over directly to my place in Shanghai. I'll give you the address, but do remember that you must test each child you send me, you're not to miss testing their characters. Got it, boss. Banzhou nodded and said, Among these 45 children, apart from a 4-year-old, we tested everyone else. They are very sensible and obedient. We even discovered that these children are far more mature than their peers as well. It is said that children from the poor households have to manage their family earlier, hence the hardships of life force these poor families' children to grow up faster. Tang Shou sighed, these children understand how to cherish and treasure the days of happiness, for they have gone through destitute and miserable lives. Work hard and do your best. You are saving souls. We're doing only you've ordered us, boss. It's you who really give them new life. You are the really good man here. Banzhou said with a smile. Lightly smiling, Tang Shou said, Tell them to pack up their things. The bus will soon come to pick them up. Banzhou let out a forced, wry smile, I kinda hate to part with them, boss. They will surely remember you in the future. Tang Shou chuckled and said, If you do well in following me, there will be time for you to see them again. Okay. Nodding heavily, Banzhou then strode toward the children. Standing where he was, Tang Shou watched Banzhou's back and secretly sighed inwardly. Life was really akin to a grindstone, by which Banzhou and Dingxi's pointedness was to be grounded and worn away. They used to be thugs, yet they were now more mature. Tang Xiu was even thinking that, a few years later, if Banzhou and Dingzi did well, kept loyal and devoted to him, he would go a step further to cultivate them. More than an hour later, a bus had parked at the new garden's entrance. As its door opened, Kang Xia led two senior executives of Magnificent Tang Corp and quickly greeted Tang Xiu. "We've arrived, boss." In front of outsiders, Kang Xia didn't show any intimacy toward Tang Xiu and maintained a respectful look on her flawless face. Nodding at her in response, Tang Xiu then took out his mobile phone to call Banzhou. Quickly, Banzhou, Dingzi, and several others brought out the children. "Tell them to get on the bus." Kang Xia and two senior executives of Magnificent Tang Corp looked confused and lost. Clueless and confused, Kang Xia said, "Boss, these children are. I'm adopting these homeless children, and am preparing to set up new places for them." Tang Xiu said lightly, "Let's go. We'll slowly talk on the road." "All right." Kang Xia nodded. Under Kang Xia's arrangement, the two senior executives of Magnificent Tang Corp took the children to board the bus, while Tang Xiu came to the Land Rover SUV and took a seat. As the two cars started, Tang Xiu asked while driving, "Are those two senior executives of our company who come with you reliable and trustworthy?"
"Yeah.
"They are new staffs I've recruited from when the Magnificent Tang Corp was just established." Kang Xia nodded and said, "Their previous jobs were kind of bad, and their lives were not that well off before. You can say that our company has changed their lives, so they have a strong sense of belonging and responsibility to our company." "All right. Tell them both to send the children to Jingmen Island's Everlasting Feast Hall." Tang Xiu nodded and said, "I've already contacted the Everlasting Feast Hall's people there, so they will fetch them up midway." "Boss, you haven't told me about adopting so many homeless children. What are you going to do with them?" Kang Xia curiously asked. "I'll foster and cultivate them," Tang Xiu said indifferently. "If you want to foster talents, you don't have to look for such small children, right?" Kang Xia said, "Wouldn't it take dozens of years to train them all as talents? The most important thing for the talents I'm fostering is their loyalty." Tang Xiu said, "Only by nurturing them from babies, branding the idea of loyalty deep in their minds, and engraving it inside their heart can they have the ability to be my competent helpers. Cultivating them may take a lot of time, as well as spending a lot of money, but I'm sure they won't disappoint me in the future." After hearing it, Kang Xia suddenly shuddered. It was a kind of shock, timidity, and an inconceivable feeling that were fused into one. Suddenly, she recalled those people from the Everlasting Feast Hall. Tang Xiu once said that those people were truly his own people who he could trust. She had already guessed about those people from the Everlasting Feast Hall at that time that they were the same with these children. They should have been trained since childhood, shouldn't they? If it was so, then the Everlasting Feast Hall was an existence that was absolutely terrifying. "Call those two. Tell them to escort the children and go directly to Jingmen Island." Tang Xiu said, "Also, give the bus driver a bonus after the trip." After hearing it, Kang Xia immediately executed Tang Xiu's instructions and told the two men. She then put her mobile away and asked, "Where do we go next, boss?" "Give me the contact details of those two, I'll send it to the Everlasting Feast Hall's people." Tang Xiu said with a smile, "As for us, we'll go directly to our company and attend the celebration party this evening." "Boss, you intend to attend the party dressed up like this?" Upon hearing that they would go the banquet tonight, a charming smile immediately appeared on Kang Xia's face. Chapter 423, It's the Clothes That Makes the Man. Star City, Fortune Plaza. A forced, wry smile hung on Tang Xiu's face as Kang Xia dragged him to the gate of Fortune Plaza. Security guards and passing visitors shot them strange looks as they came to the clothes section on the 4th floor. "Kang Xia, my clothes are good enough. Besides, it's just an evening banquet, no need to make a fuss about it." Tang Xiu forced a smile. "Boss, tonight is your first time appearing in front of the company's executives, hence, the overall image is very important. Kang Xia said with a smile, people may not say it, but it's the clothes that makes a man. Though you got good looks, these clothes you're wearing are way too shabby, there's no way you can radiate your light with that. I'm not a superstar, why would I need to radiate a light anyway? Tang Shou reluctantly said. To impress all the company's executives, of course you need to radiate a brilliant light. Kang Xia seriously said, after all, you're the company's big boss. If you don't pay attention to your image, the executives will look down on you. Besides, I don't think you want to be despised by your own employees, right? This, Tang Shou gaped, as he forced a smile and nodded. That's it, then. Kang Xia smiled and said, you just need to listen to me today. We'll first buy some clothes, shoes, tie, and boss's outfit. Then I'll take you to see someone to make sure that you dress up as handsomely as a jade tree. A man that radiates brilliance. You couldn't be thinking on make me as charming as a fox spirit, could you? Tang Shou said in an undertone voice. Pfft. Kang Xia couldn't help covering her mouth as she laughed as she dragged Tang Shou and entered a luxurious outfit store. Shopping, as it had always been, was a happy time for women. Especially when they were accompanied by their lovers. But for men, the endeavor was somewhat a torture, even if it was to buy stuff for themselves. Dragged by Kang Xia, Tang Shou spent a full 2 hours scouring the clothing store, trying more than 20 sets of suits, as, at the end of the day, only 2 sets were purchased. But the price for them was akin to squandering money to Tang Shou, making him feel bad for a while. 6 digits. Both suits were well above 6 digits. Even though he seemed to be a changed man, and the clothes were good to wear after he put them on, he felt uncomfortable. He felt like he was not wearing clothes, but hundreds yuan paper money. 5 p.m., at a private club. Tang Shou was taken by Kang Xia there. From the looks of its door, the private club was extraordinary, with a high-class and stylish decoration style. Welcome. 2 welcoming ladies greeted them as Kang Xia and Tang Shou came to a spacious hall inside. At this time, 2 middle-aged women in graceful dresses were inside the hall, sitting on the soft sofa while reading a fashion magazine and chatting from time to time. Beside them was a man in green trousers, a red vest, a duckbill cap, an air of femininity with makeup as he fiddled with a suit of clothes. Anthony! Kang Xia shouted. As the feminine man turned his head and saw Kang Xia, his eyes immediately lit up as he cheerfully greeted, smilingly saying in an especially greasy voice, Kang Xia, babe. What a rare guest. To think you unexpectedly came, what's up? Kang Xia smiled and said, Anthony, let me introduce you to this man. He's my boss, Tang Shou. Boss, he's Anthony, the owner of this costume fashion clubhouse, and also the chief of fashion stylist here. He's very skillful, as most of the ladies, bosses, and nouveau riches in Star City are very fond of looking for him to help with their fashion and appearance images. Even some Star City's superstars come to him for help. Tang Shou nodded, hello. A splendor flashed in Anthony's eyes as he sized up Tang Shou. He then repeatedly nodded and sighed in praise, a natural frame for clothes, and good-looking appearance. For me, he's simply a piece of unpolished gem that's not have undergone any sculpting. After carrying out the transformation, I'll definitely be able to cast off the dust on the jade and show its dazzling and magnificent radiance. Kang Xia, babe, you've brought me a good material. Hey, do you want to die, Anthony? He's my boss. What the heck are you seeing him as material for? I'll rip your mouth off if you dare talk rubbish again. Kang Xia snappily said.
Ah.
My bad, my bad. Consider it as if I didn't had said anything. Anthony laughed and said, besides, to think that the magnificent Tang Corp's big boss, a big shot who is akin to a divine dragon whose tail and head are nowhere to be seen, condescended to come to my small sanctuary today. This quite excited me, you know. Anyhow, for such a super client, how about I give you a 20% discount today? That's really terrific. Kongxia raised her thumb and said, let's get started, then. Letting out a faint smile, Anthony then took the 2 suits, shoes and socks, and then said with a smile at Tang Xiu, Mr. Tang, please come with me. Tang Xiu nodded slightly and followed Anthony into the next room. On the sofa, the 2 middle-aged ladies, who had continued reading the fashion magazines and did not pay attention to Kongxia and Tang Xiu when they came in, suddenly looked astonished when they heard Anthony saying that Tang Xiu was the magnificent Tang Corp's big boss. My God. I never thought that the magnificent Tang Corp's big boss would be such a handsome young man. My hubby has been talking about this magnificent Tang Corp's boss all day recently, lamenting that he has never seen him. Even until now, he hasn't been able to figure out who exactly the magnificent Tang Corp's boss is. Yeah. The topic my husband has been talking the most is about this company group and its mysterious big boss. That's right, it's said that the magnificent Tang Corp CEO is Kongxia. Is that woman Kongxia? I think I've seen her in finance and economics interviews before. From the looks of it, their relationship seems to be unusual. Regardless of their relationship, we can see the magnificent Tang Corp's big boss today. If anything, we must take a picture with him. My hubby will surely treat me specially well after I gift it to him.
Yeah.
I also want one. As for Kongxia, she walked to the bookshelf and randomly picked up a fashion magazine. She then went to sit on the opposite side of the 2 ladies. After realizing that they were both looking at her, she nodded and smiled at them, and then began to read. Half an hour later, when the next room's door was opened, Anthony came out from an immediate clap to awaken Kongxia from reading the magazine. Anthony, how's my boss? Putting down the fashion magazine, Kongxia got up and walked toward Anthony. Anthony let out a faint smile. As he was about to clap his hands, Tang Xiu's figure appeared in front of Kongxia. God. Is this really my boss? Kongxia looked dazed, and then quickly rubbed her eyes to make sure that she wasn't mistaken. She suddenly called out, Boss, you were just a young, handsome guy, but now, you're definitely top-notch. A man that countless women dream about. In the sofa nearby, the 2 ladies also looked dazed. They couldn't help but sit straight, looking dull and blank as they gaped and stared at Tang Xiu, who looked as though he had transformed into another man. Handsome. Flawless. They had met many handsome and manly men before, but none were more elegant and exuded more manliness than the one in front of them. Tang Xiu was wearing a tuxedo and a tie, with shiny leather shoes and stylish hairdo. A luxury watch wrapped around his wrist. He exuded an extraordinary bearing. What? What's wrong? Tang Xiu looked down at his clothes and wondered in surprise. No, it's just, well, too dazzling. Kongxia shook her head and murmured, Boss, if you were to become a star, all the girls in the world will surely be bewitched by you. What a big joke. Tang Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, if I have that ability, some rich women would have taken care of me as their secret lover. I'll take and keep you. As Tang Xiu's voice fell, in next to no time, the lady whose eyes shined loudly said, Handsome, I'll pour out all of my savings to keep you. Pfft. Kongxia and Anthony couldn't help but burst into laughter. Tang Xiu was at a loss whether to cry or laugh as he looked at the lady. He then shook his head and said, Elder sister, you're jesting me. I'm not accustomed to being supported by others. Having said that, he grabbed Kongxia's hand and headed toward the entrance. Only then did he loosen Kongxia's hand and said, You did it on purpose, didn't you? I swear to God I didn't. Kongxia grinned and said, But... Boss, did you see the eyes of those 2 elder sisters just now? What color did you see in their eyes? Green. Their eyes were filled with green. Now, do you realize how big your charm is? I don't know. But thinking of people wanting to raise me up as their secret young lover gives me goosebumps. Tang Xiu snappily said, let's leave quickly. I want to find a place to change my clothes. No, no, no. Kang Xia quickly pulled Tang Xiu, shaking her head again and again. It wasn't easy for me to make Antony help you design your fashion style. Besides, we would make this a pressing business in vain for the half-afternoon if you were to change your clothes. That's right, I haven't paid Anthony yet. Wait for me here, boss. Okay, okay. Tang Xiu forced a smile and said, then I won't change, all right? Just release me, will ya? Only now did Kang Xia release Tang Xiu, as she ran smilingly toward the front door. Tang Xiu could only smile wryly while shaking his head. He then walked to the car's front, took out a cigarette, lit it up, and then heaved 2 deep puffs. Though he looked helpless on the surface, he felt somewhat proud and happy inside. To think that he could even charm a middle-aged woman, that meant his looks were not bad, right? As always, it's indeed that the clothes make the man. This saying is really true. Tang Xiu flicked his suit on the shoulders. Even though he didn't look messy and disorderly in the slightest, yet he still produced pressure. A few minutes later, Kang Xia then came out of the building smiling, as she immediately rushed to him and said, "Boss, let me drive." "Have it your way, then." Tang Xiu nodded and said, "Anyhow, where will we be going next? Shall we go straight to Long's dining hall? The time to the celebration party is ticking, so I think we gotta catch up." Kang Xia smiled and said, "I dare guarantee that you'll be the focus of the audience's attention, boss." Chapter 424, Gifting the Flower Gifted by Another. As a top luxury restaurant in Star City, Long's Dining Hall was visited by Star City's nouveau riches and powerful big shots every day. The venue set up a high threshold and the prices were costly, even the riches found it difficult to have a chance to dine there. 7 p.m. A white Porsche stopped outside Long's Dining Hall's entrance. A tall, stately handsome youth in a famous brand suit quietly sat on the car's hood. He was holding a blue enchantress rose, while there was also a large bouquet of beautiful roses in his roadster. "Young Master Chen, could you move your car? We have many guests coming tonight, so parking your car here will affect them." Several distressed-looking security guards, including the captain, looked at the youth helplessly. Had it been someone else, they would have driven him away. But the one before them was the second young master of Blue City's Sameo Group, the little boss of the Sameo Group branch in Star City. At the same time, his father was also one of the shareholders of the Long's Dining Hall. A smile was drawn on the corner of Chen Xian's mouth as he slowly pulled out a cigarette from his pocket. After taking one and lighting it up, he took a deep puff and threw the pack to the captain. He then smiled and said, "Brother Chang, I would have complied if it were some other matter. But tonight is very important to me. If anything, just turn a blind eye this time. You can consider it as me owing you a favor. As long as I can take my little angel tonight, I'll tell your chief to double your salary." The captain's eyes lit up. A smile immediately appeared on his face, as he nodded and said with a smile, "If so, we wish young Master Chen's lovely dream will come true." After saying that, he motioned the other security guards, who were also smiling. The group retreated and continued their duty. Chen Xian smiled faintly. His eyes then shifted toward the Long's Dining Hall's entrance, the anticipation on his face growing. At this moment, when his cigarette was about to burn out in his finger, a petite, Lolita-like face, like an angel, wearing a ponytail, walked from the inside. Behind the girl, 2 beautiful girls followed her. Shit, how could he be here? Just as Andy walked out of Long's Dining Hall's entrance, she saw Chen Xian stamping on a cigarette butt and approaching her smilingly. Her brows slightly furrowed, and a disgruntled expression appeared on her face. While holding the blue enchantress rose, Chen Xian stopped in front of Andy and magically pulled out a red heart-shaped locket. He knelt on one knee before Andy while attempting to reveal the most charming smile he could pull off. He then affectionately said, "Andy, honey, you've rejected me 65 times before, but I believe that good things and good people should be in pairs. On this 66th time, I hope you can give your word to marry me. I, Chen Xian, swear to you that I'll only love you, to have you as the one and only woman for the entirety of my life. Please marry me. He gently opened the red heart-shaped locket's lid, and a 2-carat diamond ring immediately reflected a dazzling brilliance under the light. Andy retreated a step and indignantly said, Chen Xian, have you finished yet? I told you many times I have no feelings for you. You're not the prince charming on a white horse in my mind. No. I won't marry you. But why? The smile on Chen Xian's face froze. However, he still knelt on one knee and asked persistently, why do you always reject me? I don't care if you don't have feelings for me now. I believe I'll obtain your love in time. Andy didn't speak for a while. Suddenly, a sly glint flashed in her eyes. She then said with a smile, you want to know why? All right, I'll tell you then. It's because my mother in heaven once came to me in my dream. She said that I must never marry an Asian man, especially a man of Chinese descent. That was an excuse. An absolutely absurd, made-up excuse. Chen Xian blanched. Even the few passing guests and guards could tell that that was a made-up excuse. Well, Andy, this is very interesting. 10 meters away from the roadside, Tang Xiu threw the car keys to a security guard, while speaking in an undertone voice to Kong Xia, who was beside him. Kong Xia chuckled and covered her mouth, saying, that girl's made-up excuse is not enough to swallow by anyone's brains. Even fools can tell. I can tell that she did that on purpose to let that handsome fella hear it. Tang Xiu smiled. That Chen Xian is really persistent. I only know that he's been courting Andy, asking her to marry him, and always got rejected. Yet, every time after he got rejected, he adamantly persists. What was that ancient saying again? That's right. Keep on fighting despite continual setbacks. That's precisely the kind of man he is. Not all can be by the books. Tang Xiu laughed and said, besides, a man must have audacity, thick skin, be dauntless, and persevere to obtain success in his endeavor. Only then will he be able to hold the belle in his embrace. With a smiling expression, Kong Xia said, wow, I didn't think you read love stories, boss. Regardless, I think Chen Xian is hopeless though. If Andy does have a tad of feeling for him, however small it may be, she would have probably agreed a long time ago already. You have met Andy quite a few times already, haven't you? You should have seen about her bold, dare to hate and dare to love character. Who am I to have the rights to say so, anyway? Tang Xiu shrugged and chuckled, the sincerity that youth is showcasing will maybe eventually touch Andy's heart. What shall we do then? Should we let bygones be bygones? Or should we wait? While holding Tang Xiu's left wrist, Kong Xia then looked at the world-famous brand watch Tang Xiu was wearing. After putting his wrist down, she said, anyways, there are only 20 minutes left before the start of the celebration party. Let's go now. Or else the party will be delayed. Tang Xiu nodded and started forward. At this time, Andy was looking at Chen Xian's frozen face with a satisfaction. She thought that she was a genius to have thought up such a splendid excuse. She then intentionally revealed a pitiful look to make Chen Xian give up. Chen Xian, young Master Chan, I beg you to give me up. There's an old saying in China that filial piety is of the most important of all things. I myself am very filial, though I have no one to be filial to. Nevertheless, I can't marry you, no matter if you ask me 60 times or 6,000 times. Andy, I really like you. I love you. Chen Xian bitterly said, can you not reject me with such an absurd, made-up excuse? For you, I can do anything and everything. I'm willing to give up all, no matter what it is. Promise me, please. I will use the rest of my life to spoil you and love you dearly. Andy. Kong Xia and Tang Xiu appeared. Andy looked up. After she glanced at Kong Xia, her eyes then landed on Tang Xiu. She stared blankly at him for a while, as a splendor then burst from her eyes. In the next moment, she gaped with eyes filled with disbelief. However, in next to no time and without much her expression changing, she then winked and her expression changed to love-struck. Hey, don't stare blankly like that. The man is sincerely proposing you. Tang Xiu laughed and said, tell him you agree if you like him. From the looks of him, he seems to be pretty good too. Andy gulped her saliva down, as she strode toward Tang Xiu and pulled his hand, excitedly exclaiming, wow, you're so gorgeous today, boss. You're like the knight in a shining armor that appears in my dreams. Having said that, she seemed to recall something. After loosening Tang Xiu's hand, and under Tang Xiu's gaze that seemed at a loss whether to cry or laugh, she strode back to Chen Xian. She then snatched the blue enchantress rose from his hand and then strode back to Tang Xiu. Kneeling on one of her knees, she supinely said, boss, I just realized that I'm in love with you. Please marry. No, please accept me. A series of black, heavy lines appeared on Tang Xiu's forehead. Kong Xia was at a loss whether she had to be amused or angry when she looked at Andy and shook her head secretly. At the other side, Chen Xian, who was still kneeling, had his complexion suddenly change. He suddenly stood up and angrily yelled, Andy, what the hell do you mean by this? That rose is for you. How can you? Andy turned around and smiled gorgeously, young Master Chen, thanks a lot for the rose. I'm borrowing it to present it as a gift to my knight. I hope I can get your blessings as well. Do you see him? He's the Prince Charming I've always been dreaming of. The handsome, gorgeous man who has hit my heart as though a deer shot by a hunter. Having said that, she looked at Tang Xiu again and sweetly smiled, boss, please give me a chance. I really like you, I really love you. For you, I can do anything and everything. I'm willing to give up all, no matter what it is. Promise me, please. I will use the rest of my life to spoil you and love you dearly. Stunned and dumbfounded, never had Tang Xiu imagined that Andy would play such a game. Those words were exactly a copy-paste of what that Chen Xian guy had just said. Queer expressions appeared on each and every one of the onlookers. They never expected that such a dramatic change would unexpectedly unfold. Wow, what an interesting twist. Young people nowadays really have a good time playing. If that little girl Andy didn't refuse Chen Xian and did it on purpose, I'm afraid she would really fall into that handsome lad who arrived late. The man does his utmost to court a woman but is separated by a mountain, yet the woman herself pursues another man. I don't know whether the man who arrived late will agree. Shit, Chen Xian is just out of the game. Hearing the animated chatter from the onlookers around him, Chen Xian's countenance turned more and more unsightly. Never once in his wildest dreams did he thought he would come across somebody to unexpectedly show up and disrupt his plan. Nevertheless, little did he expect that Andy would disregard his face and pursue another man right in front of him. Furthermore, she also did it just at the moment he seriously proposed to her. Shame. It was like a scourge and calamity struck his heart. His heart was smashed and shred to pieces at the same time, causing a heartrending and piercing pain inside him. Andy, who the hell is he? Chen Xian couldn't deny that this young man in front of him was indeed very elegant and handsome, especially his dress and his demeanor. That made him a bit envious and jealous. Still, regardless of who the young man was, he was his biggest rival, his biggest enemy. If possible, he really hoped that he would be able to kill this guy, so that this fellow could never appear in front of Andy again. Chapter 425, Violent Angel. Being at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh, Tang Xiu could only look at Andy kneeling in front of him. He also shot a look at Chen Xian, whose complexion was pale and hostilely glaring at him. He never imagined that the farce would turn at him. He reluctantly shook his head before reaching out to pick Andy up. Andy, don't mess around. There are many onlookers here. Let's go inside. The banquet is about to begin. All right. Despite feeling disappointed, Andy didn't show a sliver of it outwardly. Under the onlookers' watchful eyes, she held Kong Xia's hand and lightly smiled. Boss, my performance just now was great, wasn't it? Not only did I reject and swat that fly, but I also confessed my love to the man I like. I'm amazing, right? Bah, you were simply making trouble on purpose. Kong Xia forced a smile. Be careful, girl. Boss might kick you away. No way. I'm boss loving, trusted confidant. He will definitely hate to part with me. Andy's makeup-filled face made a scoffing expression as she giggled. If anything, you don't need to feel jealous of me, Chief. Kong Xia rolled her eyes at her and then strode forward. Already with an unsightly expression on his face, Chen Xian's face turned uglier after hearing Andy comparing him to Fly. Right as Tang Xiu's group was almost inside, he immediately pursued to block them. Glaring at Tang Xiu, he growled, "Who the hell are you?" Tang Xiu halted as he looked at the furious Chen Xian, and then lightly said, "You don't need to know. You only need to know that venting your anger on others because you got rejected is not something you should do. The relationship between Andy and I is normal. If anything, continue pursuing her if you got the ability. But if you want to give up, that's nothing to do with me whatsoever." Relaxing a bit, Chen Xian still stubbornly said, "How the hell this has nothing to do with you? Didn't you just saw and heard her? I like her. I've fallen in love with her. She's destined to be my woman in this lifetime. You had better leave her and go far away and stop appearing in front of her again if you know what's good for you. Buddy, let me tell you one thing. It's your damn business whether you're successful or not in pursuing her." Tang Xiu's face turned cold, as he said in a heavy tone, "Regardless, you neither have the rights to dictate how others manage their lives nor are you qualified to limit how others get along with each other. That's my business. I'll take care of it. What the fuck can you do anyway?" Chen Xian scowled angrily. A cold light flashed in Tang Xiu's eyes as his eyes narrowed to slits. He coldly said, "Your name is Chen Xian? I was just thinking that you were a good young man. I would even regard you as half of my own people if you were able to get Andy. But now my impression has turned to the worst. You had better get lost before I get angry." Clenching his fists tightly, Chen Xian replied back overbearingly, "Arrogant. And really overbearing. You're the first one to dare to be so arrogant before me. Kid, no matter who you are, I'll make you pay if you dare to appear before Andy again. You are beyond hopeless." Tang Xiu shook his head as he looked at Andy and asked, "That skill I imparted to you, how's your practice?" After angrily glaring at Chen Xian, Andy then looked at Tang Xiu. Acting like a child who had done something wrong, she lowered her head and said, "I'm much stronger and my speed is a lot faster as well. It seems like I've succeeded." Tang Xiu had just seen himself realize that Andy's physical condition was stronger than before. Hence, he inquired about that. After getting the answer he wanted, he indifferently said, "This matter was caused by you, solve it yourself. I don't want him here in the next 2 minutes." "Understood, boss." Andy replied and then glared at Chen Xian, angrily saying, "Did you hear it? My boss doesn't want to see you again, scram." Perplexed, Chen Xian anxiously said, "Andy, I'm really sincere. Don't you want to have a well-off life? My Chen family have big a enterprise and is wealthy. I can assure you that you can live a rich, full life if you follow me. Likewise, I was just muddle-headed out of anger just now. But I recall you calling him boss before, so he must be the magnificent Tang Corp's boss, right? You can relax, my Chen family is tens of times stronger than the magnificent Tang Corporation. Marry me, and later you'll be the Chen's daughter-in-law, you won't need to do anything. You'll be 10,000 times better than working at the magnificent Tang Corporation. Bam. A small fist fiercely punched Chun Xian's face. Staggering, Chun Xian almost fell to the floor. The instant Andy's feet landed on the floor, she angrily shouted, "No one allowed you to slander our magnificent Tang Corp. Chun Xian. What Chen family? If my boss wants it, he can make a company more powerful than your Sameo group." Scram. You only have a minute left. Chun Xian stared at Andy in disbelief. In his eyes, Andy had always been an angel, a pure, chaste, and flawless angel. Never once in his dreams had he thought that one day she would beat him to keep another man's company under the public's watchful eyes. Blazing fury was bred from the flames of anger inside of him. Glaring fixedly at Andy, he clenched his fists tightly. Had it not been for the fact that Andy was a woman, he would have acted already. Suddenly, as though recalling something, he turned around and immediately raised his fist and bolted toward Tang Xiu, attempting to vent his anger and giving Tang Xiu a lesson by force. Andy's countenance changed and her expression turned unsightly. Her speed was very fast as she quickly blocked Chun Xian's path. Her petite body suddenly leaped up as her proud peaks were akin to roaring waves. She then punched Chun Xian's face again, yet at this time, she exerted enough power to directly smash Chun Xian down. Hiss. More and more guests joined the onlookers watching. Many of those who came later inquired about the whole story. Some showed sympathy, while others pity. Nevertheless, the following script made many of them despise Chun Xian, since he actually lost his demeanor and vented his anger on another just because he was rejected. After all, the man he vented his anger at had been polite toward him, even making it clear that he was only an ordinary friend to the girl. Still, Chun Xian actually vehemently ignored it. When everyone saw Andy act out of anger, they shook their heads, lamenting and sighing for Chun Xian, for he had to bear the consequences for his own deeds, allowing himself to be beaten down. However, the second time Andy acted, as she jumped to punch Chun Xian and making him fall to the floor, everyone couldn't help but gasp. They were secretly shocked by Andy's strength and speed, as it was beyond their imagination. However, the previous shock had yet to dissipate when a more unexpected scene occurred that made them more perplexed. Andy strode toward Chun Xian and repeatedly kicked him on the floor. Furthermore, it seemed that Andy was exerting a great deal of strength, since he kept screaming pitifully with every kick. Flawless beautiful face and a petite figure. She was akin to a flawlessly pure angel. Yet, that cute little angel who everyone couldn't help but be fond of turned out to be unbelievably violent. Was she a violent angel? Tang Xiu couldn't help but sigh inside. Although he also felt that Chun Xian was somewhat pitiful, yet the pitiful guy also had a hateful side to him. If it wasn't because the guy himself threw a tantrum to flame him, he wouldn't have been angry at him. At the end of the day, however, Andy was an employee of the magnificent Tang Corp. It was rather an unsightly misconduct for her to savagely beat Chun Xian under everyone's watchful eyes. Hence, he let out a light cough and called her out, "Andy, stop." After Andy stopped, the indignant expression on her face vanished in an instant. She was like an obedient wife as she came toward Tang Xiu and said in a low voice, "Boss." Shaking his head, Tang Xiu then glanced at Chun Xian, who was holding his belly and curled up on the floor like a dried-up shrimp. Then, he calmly said, "Just forget it. After all, he likes you, and it's not wrong for anyone to like someone, to begin with. Come, our company's party is about to start. Don't delay it because of this trivial matter." Yes, yes. Seeing that Tang Xiu didn't even blame her, Andy quickly ran to Kong Xia's side and grabbed her arm again. At the moment, Kong Xia's expression was a bit weird. Seeing Tang Xiu turn around and walk inside, she hesitated for a moment, before entering Long's dining hall's front door. She then asked in a low voice, "Andy, your cultivation, could it be your cultivation has produced true essence?"
Yeah.
"My cultivation has achieved it some time ago, Chief." Andy chuckled and said, but I didn't tell you because you left for Shanghai. After coming back, we got too busy and I forgot to mention it. At present, not only can I feel the flow of qi inside my body, but I also can control it. Besides, boss has imparted us the cultivation technique to practice, absorbing some spiritual qi, and then transforming it to true essence. Kang Xia secretly gasped and gulped her saliva down. She then lightly asked, are your strength and speed really more powerful than before? They are several times stronger than before, at least. Andy nodded and said, otherwise, how do you think I was able to punch Chun Xian's face so fiercely? I'm really envious of you, girl. Kang Xia forced a smile and said, I haven't even felt the flow of qi till now. Yet, you are already able to control it, even transforming it into true essence. That's because you are usually too busy and rarely practice, right, Chief? Andy laughed and said, I think it's not difficult to practice. I usually cultivate for 2 hours in the morning and in the daytime if I got the time, hence I naturally succeeded. Kang Xia stared blankly for a moment, before she shook her head and forced out a bitter smile. She was indeed like Andy said. More often than not, she was too busy to even have a proper meal. Where would she have the time to cultivate? The best shot she could give was to cultivate consecutively for a week, and that was only 2 hours each day. She secretly made up her mind to cultivate diligently later. After all, it was boss who had imparted her the cultivation technique. Even if her cultivation was not as powerful as boss told them, but at least she didn't want to be inferior to Andy. Andy, you have worked hard. But I'll definitely surpass you later. Kang Xia whispered. I'll be waiting, Chief. Andy chuckled.